Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we'll explain about the use of comic strips to improve students' ability in write narrative text, a literature review. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Nurma Soma from Islamic State University of Saifuddin Zuhri Purwokerto. And there are four important skills on English language teaching, and then we know that writing skill as the one of them. And now this writing skill is necessary skill. It began since written communication is used. And we know that our students, the EVL students, also use social media to type any kinds of text. In fact, the EVL students has difficulties in writing, and the students in Indonesia face several difficulties while writing a text because lack on grammar, vocabulary, mechanics, and organization. And narrative text is one of important material as well known from junior high school and their senior high school. It will be teach on English subject. And comic strips, there are so many previous studies that agree comic strip as provide alternative solution for our student difficulties. And there are so many definitions of writing skill in this slide, so I will conclude that writing skill is the one of macro skill who has written communication, the form of writing communication, and have literature cultures. Definition of narrative text. Narrative text is one of the writing skills, writing text that has disciplinary structures, orientation, evaluation, complication resolution, and reorientation. But also the function is for entertain to the reader, but rather purpose that of the narrative text just not for entertain the reader, but also have powerful for changing social opinion and attitudes. And the definition of comic strip is, I will conclude it. There are three definitions. From their definition, I will conclude that comic is sequence of image and has panels, balloon, and also the dialogue, and also the story is just short story that has intermediate to difficult concept. But also Novitasari 2000 and 2000 said from MC Code in Chimbernova out that the important sequence on comic is picture because picture is the key to message delivery. And the components of the comics, so according to Saraceni, there are four components. The first one is panels, just rectangular frames, 6 to 9 rectangular, and the quarter a blank space, and the balloon for dialogue, and the last is the caption. It's include the narrator's voice. There are several previous studies. The first one, according to Novitasari, that out there benefits use comic strips is decreasing reading consume time, provide meaningful learning, enjoyable and fun learning activities. And based on Fenty Susilawati about digital comics, she agree on her research that digital comic appropriate for all ages because birth creative thinking of our students. And previous study on the advantages of using comic strip to improve students' ability in write narrative text to is from Amami. The study concludes that comic strips media can be alternative to improve the student understanding in writing ability. And according to Young's, that the several strengths in comic education, the first one is naturally build the student motivation on the classroom, strength in visual, and then permanent, and intermediary, and the last is popular. And then according to Julia Ratnasari, said that using comic strip to teaching writing skill are effective and useful. And based on Megawati and Anugrawati on their studies, the comic strip give more real text of story. The comic strip appropriate for group and effective to make group focus by give each group one comic strips. And steps to make narrative text by using comic strip based on Huda. The first one is prepare the panel of comics, the second is write the narration, and the third is made a dialogue, and the fourth is draft the sketch, and the fifth is give the line art, and the last is coloring the picture on the comics panel. At the conclusion is writing skill is the student writing ability to write text and granted literature cultures, and comic is one of visual teaching media. And then the research, I conclude that the use of comic strip are less time to bridge student idea but meaningful learning process, fun learning activities, student motivation, and guide the ideas, student ideas I mean, and more understandable material in writing narrative text. Eye-catching because there are many pictures that makes the students more focused in the learning process. And as recommendation for you as teacher, and you can use comic strip to improve student ability in writing narrative text. And also the researcher also recommendation the teacher to use Canva application with the feature is comic strip feature. And for future research, the important point that can be searched in the future time is use comic strip on the reading skill. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.